Hey guys, this is Brett Young, Taylor Young, and Rod Erb, and you're tuned in to the Be Extraordinary podcast with Erb and Young. Real conversations about business, leadership, and personal development. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Be Extraordinary podcast. I hope you guys are living extraordinary. I've got my business partner, Mr. Taylor Young, with me today, and a special guest from right here in Central Florida. We have a special treat for you guys today, a story of adversity, a story that will inspire you and shift your perspective on what real problems are. But more importantly than that, it'll shift your perspective of what someone can overcome. And so today, if you're driving, if you're listening, tune in because it's one of the most inspiring stories I've heard in a very long time. So KB, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Bert.
Super fired up.
Appreciate you, bro.
Man, we had an opportunity to hear you speak.
That's right.
Probably about a month ago.
That's right.
And it was at a Robert Slack event. We did a road tour here in Orlando, and it was a badass event. You guys blew it out. Incredible team. And
thank you.
I had a chance to hear you talk about your journey and where you have come from and what you're doing, and it just struck us. It was just one of the most heartfelt, amazing stories that I'd heard in such a long time. And I appreciate you sharing your time today and being here and being able to pour into the audience and kind of give some perspective on some really cool stuff to share today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys, both of you. You came up to me right after that, I think. I was coming back from the stage and you came up to me, and it was very sweet what you said to me. You're like, hey man, like your story was really powerful. I didn't think I made that big of an impact. You and a few other people came up to me and like, wow. But thank you for your kind words. It meant a lot to me.
Well, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're a very gentle, sweet, approachable person, and I appreciate just your candor and your ability to be able to get in front and share such a powerful, personal story.
Thank you, man.
And for me, I know when I listened to it, I thought to myself, man, all the things I sometimes go home and I think, woe is me problems that I'm dealing with. And I think, as a high achievers, which is the people who are listening to this podcast are people that just epitomize excellence or want to epitomize excellence in what they do. Entrepreneurs to sales professionals to managers to executives and to people that are just looking to become more. And I think sometimes one of those fatal flaws is that we take on a lot. And then because of that, life gives us challenges to overcome because we've asked for them. But then sometimes we can get the poor, pitiful me mindset, going home every day thinking, oh man, I can't believe this. How's this happening? Why does this always happen to me? And I've been there before. And when you hear a story like yours, it just rocks you to your core to say, man, your perspective is so distorted of what real life really looks like. So before we get into that today, I just wanted to kind of give the audience an idea of who you are.
Sure.
Team leader at Lakeland and Robert Slack, performing at a very high level, came from Miami, moved to take over the Polk County market.
Right.
Running a team currently right now of, I think, how many?
About 10 right now.
About 10
We're
of those.
building. Mm-hmm.
And so I know Robert Slack has been a huge piece of your journey, which we'll get into that in a little bit. But I know it's been great for us. We've had an opportunity to partner with you guys to do some deals together with all over the state, which has been super exciting. And one of the benefits is meeting somebody like yourself. So why don't you share with the audience a little bit about who you are?
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction, man. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for having me together. So my introduction is pretty interesting. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Born to Pakistani parents back in the 80s. And life didn't take off the right way. Mom and dad got a bad divorce. And in our culture back then, in Pakistani culture, parents don't get divorced. It was taboo. So my dad just left one day and left me and my mom by herself. Single mom, raised me in an apartment probably size of this office right here. One bedroom, one bathroom. Wow. She worked her butt off. Public school. The 80s Brooklyn. It's not what Brooklyn is right now. Brooklyn now is all, holding hands and we're all happy. Back then, it was rough. It was really rough. Crime was at the highest, right? Life started, got into high school, did pretty okay. And one fine morning, my mom comes home and says, hey, I have cancer. and she had breast cancer, and she delayed it by 1 year. She was so scared to go to doctor. She had a lump, but she kept on ignoring it for a year.
Whoa.
And she had surgeries, chemo. We moved to Florida then with my uncle, and she passed away. I was 21. She was 45.
Wow.
To put in perspective, I'm 41 now. So she was 4 years older than me. I was 21. I have a 6-year-old daughter at home. So, the age is a little different. But that was the second kicker. Once my dad leaving me, no father from my whole life. Second, my mom leaving me. And then things got even worse and worse and worse. I got into some bad habits, to say that much. The party scene in Miami was insane. And I met my girlfriend at that time, my wife now, who came in my life and said, hey, you have so much potential. You're wasting it away. Do something about it. I owe that woman, Saima, everything. I mean, she's my pillar of success. She's one who got me by the head and took me in. So we get married. I went back to school, got an undergrad, got an MBA. Life is perfect. Have a daughter. South Florida lifestyle. We're both doing really well. She's a physician. I was a director of marketing. One fine day, Christmas morning, 2017, she had to go to work. She had a shift that morning. Thank God, she said, hey, you know what? You're probably tired. Let me call in our nanny to come in for a few hours. If that nanny's probably saved my life. So she goes to work. I come inside back. I give her a hug and a kiss. Have a good day at work. I come back in our townhome. My daughter's sleeping on a place over here, first floor. Babysitter, nanny's in the kitchen. I go, Isa, go upstairs to take a little nap. I have a headache. And I went upstairs, and I'm going up the stairs, and I feel heavy. I'm feeling heavy. And I go into the bedroom, and I just drop, just on the floor. And I'm so confused. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, my whole right side is getting numb. I pick the phone. I'm texting with one hand. Gibberish is coming out. I'm calling my wife. Yeah, she's just got to work pretty much. And she's like, hey, babe, I'm at work. You okay? And, like the gibberish coming out. And she's like, babe,
wow.
I don't have time. I'm like, and she's texting me in this bad. And then she calls Isa, my babysitter. Isa comes upstairs, looks at me, goes to her, says, hey, Senor KB's on the floor. He had a droop. And when she heard the word droop, she's internal medicine, so she's like, all right, this is a go time. She calls my best friend who was coming back from work that morning. He works for Delta. He's an engineer, airline engineer. So meet me at the hospital. I need your help. So it's 911's called, ambulance is called. They take me in. I arrive to the ER. I look here and I see my wife pregnant, by the way, 9 months pregnant with my second baby, in scrubs. And my best friend, like red eyes, tired, standing right there. And I'm having a hard time recognizing them. I'm like, anyways, they took me in, and I couldn't speak. I had to go to the bathroom. I had to pee. So I'm running the hallways. I'm putting down the door, looking for a bathroom. They're calling security, code blue, whatever they call it. And the big guys are running behind me, grabbing me. My wife goes, hey, you have to pee? You have to pee? And I go, yeah. She goes, he has to pee. Everyone back off. And they gave me a bin to pee in. And as soon as they gave me that bin to pee in, they gave me a shot.
Oh, my gosh.
And from there, dude, it was just like, that's all I
They
remember.
tranquilized you in the middle of the hallway.
Yes.
Wow.
Peeing in a bin, bro. some sense of humor, right? I wake up one week
Get that
later.
security camera footage.
CCTV, right? I didn't think about that. Yeah. So, dude, I woke up briefly in a cath lab. Quickly, I saw a doctor come look at me like this. He goes away, and I'm out again. I wake up. So I went down Christmas Day. I wake up New Year's Eve.
Oh, my God.
1 week.
It's a week, yeah.
1 week. My best friend sitting next to me. I turn around. I'm a ventilator. My hands are tied like this because I was scratching myself. My wife told me, so she had to tie my hand. I'm looking at my hand. Oh, man, I lost my fingers. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, and turn around to him. I'm like, he's like, dude, you're okay. Relax. I'm thinking, man, did I have an car accident? And he goes, you're okay. You got a stroke.
Oh my God.
And I heard that. I'm like, what? Like, I'm 35. You know, this is 7 years ago. 35. I was heavier. I'm in better shape now, but I wasn't that bad of a shape, right? Anyways, he goes, you'll be fine. And then my wife comes in. I see her. My family's walking by. I see them. You know, we're Pakistani, so a lot of us are doctors, physicians. A lot of my friends will come into the hospital as physicians and checking in with me and stuff. It was good stuff. Dude, the next day or two, they took the ventilator out of my mouth, and that was the most painful situation I remember. The doctor comes to me, he looks at me, he goes, Mr. Bukhari, you had a stroke, you'll be okay. And then he goes to my wife right there, and I'm hearing this, and I this is such a sad thing. He goes to my wife, he goes, Dr. Rafiq, I don't think your husband is going to be able to walk for a long time.
Oh my God.
And I'm hearing this, right? And like
Right in front of you.
right in front of me. He probably thought I was out, you know, but he didn't know I was up. I was there. And there's a lot to process, right? You're sitting there. It gets me emotional thinking about it. And then I heard that. I'm like, okay, you know what? Game on, man. Like, you know, I don't know if we can curse here, but after you do it, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to give up this fast. Next day, my doctor who came in, who performed on me, he was 33 years old, brand new doctor. Dr. Lima, amazing. Shout out to Dr. Lima.
So did they do surgery? You said they performed on you.
For my groin. So let me explain what happened. This part over here is called a carotid artery. Everyone has it. It's the one main artery.
Yep.
That had a tear.
Right on your neck.
That tear resulted in a blood clot right here.
Right above your eyebrow.
Yes. Behind my eye.
Oh, behind your eye.
We had to do a cut over here, put a camera.
Go scope it.
Wow. Go all the way up here, come here. They put a device to make it open so the blood flow can go through. So there's a, I don't know, it's plastic or some type of device in there, a stent right here to keep it open. And they come back, they had to kind of, I think they kind of fixed this and it came out.
Wow.
The danger with that was my wife's telling me, and the doctor told me too, like, he goes, we didn't think that's going to work. We thought it would do more damage to you than help you. At that time, to go back 1 second, on that Christmas day when I'm out, the doctor came to my wife, Dr. Lima. He goes, Saima, I think it's time to call his friends and family. It's not looking good. So my dad flew in, who I haven't seen for many years. He flew in with my stepmother. All my boys from Brooklyn, New York are there. Anyone come is there.
To say goodbye.
Goodbye. And they came in.
Get out of here.
I have no idea they came in. Some of them took pictures as a memory.
Oh my God.
They send it to me afterwards.
Fuck?
And like, so when I wake up, I'm like, my wife's right here. I'm like, babe, no one came to see me. She's like, no, everyone came to see you. They just left. They were here for 1 week. Wow. And so, yeah, man. So Dr. Lima came to me. He goes, hey, do me a favor. Say the word buttercup. I couldn't say it. You should give me a bag and $1 million and put it in front of me and say, hey, I'll give you $1 million. Say the word buttercup. I would not be able to do it. He's okay. Do me a favor. Relax. Okay. Raise your right hand. Couldn't work. Wow. Move your right foot, your toes, your leg. Nothing.
Wow.
And I saw the look in his face. It wasn't very inviting. I'm like, oh, dude, this is gonna be a long road. He goes, relax. We'll send some therapy tomorrow. Said back. And I remember the funny thing. It's kind of corny and interesting. Batman. The third one, Batman, Dark Knight Rises. Christian Bale's back is broken. That scene is on.
Oh, yeah.
And his back is broken, and there's an old guy talking to him, and then he finally gets up, they're chanting, he goes up, he fails, he goes up, he fails, and I'm watching this movie. I'm a big movie guy. I'm a huge movie guy.
Are you in the hospital
right now? Just laying down. All I think I do is lay down.
This is Batman Begins, right?
No, this is Batman, the third one.
Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, Dark Knight
Rises.
With Bane.
Bane breaks his back.
Where he's stuck in the
cave.
The cave, yeah.
If you can't tell, I'm like a big Batman guy.
Okay, yeah. So
I'm a huge Batman
dude,
guy.
and everyone, right? And I'm just watching this, and I'm like, okay, yes, this is the reason God put this movie on in front of me. I have much more to do, and that was my thing.
Wow.
I have a bigger purpose. I have to serve for God. I mean, guys, I have to go to the bathroom. this was the hardest part, guys. This guy comes in, I have a diaper on. I mean, I'm sharing this with you guys, you know, and I share this with everyone as an audience to show them, look, things can go really bad in life, but remember, it can be much better, and just stay at it. He turned me over like a baby. We all have kids. We even talked about it. He watches me, he cleans me up, and it puts me together, and he goes away. And I'm like, pity party. Like, what the, what the hell?
Dude,
like, this is not fair. Like, I never did anything. I never did a scam to anyone. I never hurt anyone. Never ripped anyone off. I mean, I've been honest, a good person for most of my life. But man, like, I went to rehab. My wife was a doctor at a rehab. She got me in a very nice, big, nice room. And I started to go there, and I'm like, guys, I'm feeling some movement. Give me a walker. Oh, no, Mr. Bukhari, we can't do that. I'm like, guys, I want a walker now. I'm not going to do the diaper thing anymore. I'm going to go, the bathroom's right behind me. Give me a walker. Okay, hold on one sec. Let me call your wife. And they go, all right, we'll get you a walker. And he got me a walker, and I barely can walk. But man, there's something inside of me just was saying, just try, just keep moving. And I barely got in the bathroom, did my thing, came out, and then the walkers became my moving piece. I did rehab, but rehab is tough.
Rehab is tough.
There were people there, the young kid there, kind of like, 21, 20-year-old young kid. Man, his bottom from neck down was gone. Big motorcycle accident.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And his dad's right there. Dad, I think, did HVAC, and I shirt on. I was talking to the dad. Good guy. And I'm like, I saw that. I'm like, you feel bad for yourself.
So here you are. I'm trying to get perspective from your experience. And even in the the quote unquote the worst of it, right? The pit of Batman's, low point.
Yeah.
You look to your right and go, no, wait a second. This could get so much worse. So you gained perspective. In the midst of your lowest point,
bingo,
you're gaining perspective.
There you go. Wow. Yeah, thank you for that. 100%. And everyone there, I mean, I was the best case there, I think, honestly. And if you think like that, like, whoa. And, again, these nurses are great and stuff, therapists. When a therapist comes to my wife, he goes, hey, I think KB should have a cane, or probably going to have a cane for the rest of his life, or a walker. I'm like, dude, and I said to him, like, dude, let's not write me off right away. Like, give me a chance. Dude, one day by day, I had a lot of self-development books with me, Tony Robbins, all that stuff. That stuff came in handy.
You could read? And
I could read.
Okay.
It was a little hard. It took me a lot more time.
Okay.
But I can read. My speech is getting a little bit better day by day. Speech therapist coming every single day. Every day I'm doing speech therapy. I'm doing physical therapy.
How much frustration did you feel during the process? Because like you go from 1 minute being a fully functioning and you take all this for granted. Yeah. And then the next moment, you're having to fight every single ounce of you just to move your leg one, wiggle.
Yeah.
And then you want to say something you can't communicate to somebody. Like that's got to be like, how hard was it emotionally versus just the physical?
I think it was harder emotionally, and it taught me patience. I was not a patient person before this. Someone even say that I was maybe a little arrogant in some ways before. It was definitely humbling. Mm-hmm. It changes you become, if you think you're a big bad guy, you become really small really fast. Mm-hmm. Rehab for 2 weeks, which was unheard of, by the way. They're like, they thought I'd be there for months. And one fine day, I'm walking again, not running, walking. I'm speaking, but not like this. This was not there. And he's like, time to go home. And they're like, give me your license. You can't drive. I'm like, really? Yeah, we have to teach you how to drive again. That was over. I did that with them. Like, hey guys, I'll give you my license, but I know how to drive. I didn't drive for a month, but went back home. We moved in with my in-laws. My wife was traumatized with our townhome. She's like, babe, I'm gonna put on her rent. She's about to give birth, so she's on leave now.
Yeah, she's 9 months pregnant.
9 months pregnant.
Right.
Gosh. That's insane.
And my other daughter's 1 year old and running around.
Oh my gosh.
So thank God to my in-laws who have been a blessing in my life. They were helping me with the kids, and they say, hey, son, we have a room for you. Just recover. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about anything else in life.
And as a man, that's got to be so difficult, right?
That was hard.
I'm trying to put myself in that perspective. And I hope everybody that's listening to this, you try to put your own situation through this lens. You know, that's what's so powerful about hearing the stories. It's like, you know, how would you respond? What would that look like? And I know for me, I'd be so grateful to have the help, but also like, you know, there's this, I would have this pride a little bit that says, man, I was, you know, taking care of my situation and my family, and now I'm having to rely on others, you know, which is a blessing, but also it's got to be just draining a little bit, you know?
It definitely was. I mean, like, I'm 35 years old. I'm married to a daughter for at that time about 8 years, 7 years. You know, we were doing good. I mean, as a couple, we were doing good.
That's crazy. I'm 35, and that's about how long my wife and I have been married. Yeah. We have young kids. So
I put in perspective,
I just can't help but think what that picture looks like.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Talk about surrender, man. Like we talk about this a lot in some of our coaching sessions with the gentlemen that we've had the pleasure to work with. And it's like, you think you're in control. Like you're in for a rude awakening, right? Like we create, but it's only through the creator, right? 100%. You co-create. You know, if you think that you are in charge, you know, go talk to somebody who's been through a situation like this, right? Like the last thing that you're in control of your effort and your attitude. But other than that, everything is in somebody else's hands at this point, right? Like, so, you know, I got goosebumps. I mean, you probably talk about faith during that time period, but I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, please.
Perspective is
please jump in anytime you guys want. But yes, you said it. That's been my slogan, co-creating. Yes, we do create. We put the actions in. We have the thoughts and intentions, but the higher power and whatever you believe in, it's your business. I'm very spiritual. I believe in just one God out there, but in God's in charge. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, God's in charge. It gets worse now. I'm up and running. Not running, up and walking.
You're still in therapy?
In therapy. But my doctor said, hey, you can go back to the office.
So what is your profession at the time?
Director of marketing.
You're leading, you're in charge.
I'm in charge.
Big position.
Wow. It was a startup, 3-year-old company, Miami, Florida, tech company. Jeez. I went back to them, and the guy, my boss at that time, one of my mentors now, funny thing it is, Alex, he goes, listen, let's go for a walk. And we went for a walk, and he goes, listen, man, it just breaks my heart. By the way, he was paying me when I was, he took care of my family. He was coming to the hospital. Amazing guy. I love him to death. But listen, KB, I have to let you go. I don't know. We had to wait for you this long. We don't know what's going to happen with you. We had to fill the position. I'm mad at him. Like, how can you do this to me? Like, you're my brother. Like, I was with you from day one. I was emotional. I'm like, dude, you know, I'm going to sue you. I'm like, dude. And he, you know, he's giving me a hug. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to sue anyone. And it is what it is. He goes, listen, you have bigger and better things waiting for you. I promise you that. This was a stepping stool for you. You know, a stepping stone for you. You have a lot to conquer. And I'm like, dude, you're just saying rah bullshit to me, you know.
Right.
I went home, and it's a true story. I'm driving, and I'm crying. I'm like in tears, like, oh my God, I'm at my in-laws' house. I don't know if they're going to think of me. My wife is on leave. And I have a second baby. Next week, she's coming. I don't have a job. I can barely walk and talk. I came home, gave my wife a hug. Right away, went on to interviews, had a Zoom interview. It was the worst interview in the world. Nice 6-figure job. I couldn't speak.
Right.
I'm nervous. And I'm telling them, and they're very nice people. I forgot the company. And they're like, okay, sir, we'll get back to you. And I'm like, babe, I can't do this. And she's like, you know what, let's just start thinking. You know, at that time, I forgot to tell you guys, the doctor told us that like 10% of my brain was damaged. My wife, as a physician, her biggest thing was, would he even be able to go back to work? Like, I don't even know he's processing things the right way. She goes, babe, we're watching this show. It's called Housewives of Beverly Hills. One of the guys, a big-time realtor. She goes, babe, do real estate again. You did it years ago. You did really good. Why don't you do it again? I go, yeah, you're right. She goes, listen, all I expect you to do is close a deal in 6 months. Don't pressure. We got some money in the bank. We saved up. We're okay. You know, the in-laws are helping us. Just do one deal a month and 6 months, and we'll see how you do. Went for the test, failed the test 3 times. Like, studying and reading is not easy. My brain is not used to it.
Right.
State exam for real estate in Florida is the hardest, by the way, but I passed it the 4th time. Went first company, told me the greatest thing in the world, will do this for you, do that for you, that, this and that. fall. They didn't do nothing for me. And then I ran into a person who worked with Robert Slack. I go, hey, John, who are you working with, man? I see you on social media putting up closing. They go, oh, this company called Robert Slack. Robert Slack gives you leads. Here's a girl's number, Kat Flanagan. She's a team leader in Broward County.
Kat's great.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
And she is my hero. And so I go, okay, let me call her. I called her up. I went in, and I remember, she looking at me. I'm looking at her. I'm like, Kat, she goes, I can hear you. I got it. She goes, you know what? I told my story. She goes, you know what? You're at the perfect place. I go, why? She goes, Robert and Dan have stories, and I'm sure they would love to have you part of our team. This is the company that's about a year or two old at that time. She goes, just come in, just do your thing. And she is the first point of contact from Robert Slack who believed in me. I didn't believe in myself. I talked to her. I get emotional talking to her. She's like my sister. I'm like, God, I didn't know. I have 0 ounce of belief in myself, but you saw something in me that you gave me a chance. And from there, man, this just took off. It just took off. It was not easy in the beginning, but slowly and slowly and slowly. And the thing about Robert Slack, one of the amazing things about Robert Slack, the culture and the fact that they give you the tools and leads to succeed.
Yeah.
So if you have the will and the good work ethic, you're at the perfect place.
Incredible.
And
And this was before Robert Slack was the Robert
Yes.
Slack, right? Like you're saying this was, how many years ago was this?
This is 2018.
I mean, 2018.
Yeah,
right?
no, no one knew us.
Right.
No one knew Dan.
And so you got to see the true character of that leadership team in the company before it became the powerhouse
Who they
that
are.
it was today.
100%.
And so in essence, you're a byproduct of this culture and this, character trait within that organization, and also just the tools, man. That's incredible.
Yeah,
What a cool story. Kat's amazing.
She's amazing.
She's great.
And she fits in the culture. I met Robert very soon after that. He watches me on social media. That's when I met him. My whole story, gave me a big hug. Meeting him and Dan did something to me. I would thought before I met Dan, I saw pictures of him. I thought he'd just be some arrogant, owner of a company coming through. And I talked to him and heard his story, man. I was melting. Dan Walters and Robert Slack, and this is not, kissing butt or anything like that. They're just amazing individuals. And Robert, you haven't met Robert yet.
I haven't.
Oh,
No, Dan's amazing. Love Dan.
Dan is amazing, but and just like Dan, Robert, you get to meet Robert. Robert he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. And I get tears in my eyes. The wisdom and advice he'll give me every time he saw me, and he's the one who told me to come to Orlando. He said, "Hey, I think you do really good in Orlando. My wife got a good job here too as a physician." She goes, it's like, KB, I think you do good in Orlando. Come on. And then, he gave me the job as a team leader, and then everything took off after that.
Man, I was going to ask, was there ever a moment, and that story's incredible. I just think about and you know what's crazy about the story is I think about once you think you've hit your low, it's almost like it was a little bit further. It's like you're in the hospital getting your diaper changed. You think that's your low. And then it's like, boom, now I'm at my in-laws with no job.
Yeah.
Checkmate. That's the low, right? Now I go on this interview where I can't speak and I'm not myself. There's a new low, right? Your ego is just getting pounded, right? Everything that you have that you would identify as yourself is removed, right? And then you're now at this low where you have to rebuild, yourself. And then, part of what I was going to ask is like, one, did you sell the house in the first 6 months? And then two, was there ever a moment where you're like, you know what? I'm starting to get, was there ever that moment where it was like really, really hard, but then there was these little glimpses of reminders that, hey, I'm kind of coming back.
I'm going there.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. I sold my first house in 30 days.
Okay.
30 days. And my in-laws neighbor, I went door knocking and say, hey, I'm a new agent. I'll be honest with you. I use my stroke story quite a bit.
Sure.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, you know what? I'll give you a chance. And she gave me the listing.
That's awesome.
Did that. I got a lead one day. It was $800 lead. Closed that. I believe in law of attraction. You have to have intention, a vision. You have to have goals. And then the second thing, you have to have faith. And third, you have to put the action.
Active faith. Yeah.
Yes, active faith. I'm telling you, don't get me wrong. My wife, I had an office in my in-laws' garage. she's come to me and like, hey, babe, like I gave you 6 months, but like, listen, let's put some pedals to the metal. Yeah, we need some money. Yeah. And I'm like, babe, I got it. I got a deal. And at that time, I swear to you, I had no deal. I go, babe, I'm going to close the deal in 30 days. She was, really? You have a deal? Yeah, I got a deal. I had nothing. The next day, the phone call came in, and I manifested that in 30 days.
Imagine that.
Think about that. So now I throw things out there, man, left and right, because, bro, my whole life, I'm telling you right now, for me to speak on stage, when I had my stroke, I used to watch this guy, Patrick Bet-David. He's a huge entrepreneur. You heard of him? Big fan. I used to see him do these type of things. And like, bro, six years later, I'm speaking on a stage, and now people calling me to do keynotes. I'm being invited to a podcast 6-7 years ago. This would be a dream for me. So this is what I was anticipating, throwing it out there, praying to God, hey, give me a chance to share my message. So manifestation does work, in my opinion.
You know what it makes me think of too is, one of the hardest parts to hear in that story is that your close friend who ultimately transitioned and let you go, and in that moment how hard that must have been. Yeah. And in that moment, even from hearing the story, like, man, how could you do that? And at the same time, there's that voice that you're gonna do so much more. Again, you go back to the co-creation, you go back to a higher power. Like that was like the start of your new journey, right? If that didn't happen, would it ever get to a point where all this stuff happens, where you're able to, that I just think about all those little things along the way to kind of get broken down to truly rebuild. It's fascinating.
You're right. That's like 100% right. I mean, it's you have to just have the faith. That's the hardest thing for most people.
Well, I forget where the quote came from. It was one of the podcasts we did a couple times ago, and it was we're most capable of helping the person that we once were, and that quote has always stuck with me. Because what you now have is a platform to share an incredible story of breakthrough through breakdown.
Yeah,
and it might not be a stroke for somebody, but it might be some other physical ailment that they're battling with. It might be somebody else who a doctor tells them that they can't walk again. It might be somebody else telling them that they'll never be able to, push past this particular obstacle. It might be somebody who was downsized from a 20-year career. It might be somebody who lost a business. I mean, a divorce,
bankruptcy, divorces, drug addictions. I have some friends of mine who had bad addictions. Like I thought they would be, dead. And now they own multiple companies, 7 figures, young dads like us, speaking on stages. As a good friend of mine, Mark Efron, and he's my mentor. But his story is remarkable. And people go through hell, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, you mentioned something to start the podcast. Your perception of problems since that happened. And look, honest answer, right? I think life comes at us, but at what point, when some big problem, right? We're reading in the chapter in a book that we're reading together as a company last night, The Slight Edge, and it talks about your perception of a problem, the size of the problem, and the individual that can handle higher levels of problem, and that's kind of defining. And how do you perceive problems now? Is it do you still get wound up when the deal falls through, or there's or is it just a little bit more in perspective? I'd just be curious on
good
how
question.
That's affected that.
Yeah, good question, and thank you for asking that. A little perspective comes in. I do forget. I have a reminder. My wife, she'll come right behind me, say, "Babe, are you seriously going to complain about a deal or this, or our kid having a tantrum on an airport? Are you forgetting?" By the way, I think it was harder for her than it was for me. I was out, right? I'm in a coma. This is a woman looking at her husband who she fell in love with years ago. Second kid. I wonder what she went through. So her perspective is even better than mine. She'll say to me, like, "Hey, babe, it's okay. Like, money will come, money goes. You rebuilt a nice life. You're an entrepreneur. You signed up for this." To your point of losing a deal, losing an opportunity, losing a business opportunity, you signed up for this. We're okay. But she reminded me, and when she's not there, something does kick in sometimes. Like, hey.
Man, I appreciate your vulnerability and transparency to share that, to say even through that experience, the natural instinct is to go into this fight or flight. I hate the woe is me, but it's the best way I could describe it, because I think all high achievers at some point suffer from this, it's not suffer, but are stricken by this. We think our problems are the biggest problems, because we like to have heavy shoulders. It makes us feel good that the more drama that we have in our life, the bigger the things that I'm doing. And I've seen this with multiple achievers, and I think that's a consistent pattern. But even through that experience, you can go back to this natural instinct of this human behavior that is not serving, and you have to go back and remind yourself, and it's almost like take the blinders off for a second and see the bigger picture. Yeah. Yesterday we were on a training, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it was a Charlie Chaplin quote. And it said, to see the world under a microscope is paralyzing, or it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. But to see it in a long shot is a comedy. And basically what it's saying is, like, if you get so close to the problem, everything looks like this big problem, right? You just lack perspective. But if you take your blinders off and you're able to see the bigger picture, you just see the dance for what it is.
Exactly.
It's comedic.
That's strong.
It's fun. It's light,
yes.
right? And that's a good reminder for anybody that's listening to this podcast, and for me, that even when you're go through situations like this and come out the other side and gain perspective, you have to constantly go back and remind yourself of this stuff, right? What I hear, it's a habit to think that way. What I hear, it's a conditioning to think that way. It doesn't just automatically happen because you go through an experience. So reminders, conditioning, a gratitude in the morning, prayer, groundedness, the people around you, support systems, all that are reaffirmations
100%.
Of what you know to be true, but yet it's so easy to get lost in the day-to-day.
Yeah. Yep. What you said right now, the morning rituals,
yep,
super important. Super important.
What's yours look like?
Oh, I feel at times I'm rushed with the kids running around. But what I try to do,
that.
you know what I mean? What I try to do is do a gratitude. Gratitude is must. 10 things you're grateful for from the day before.
Day before, okay.
Yes. And try to avoid anything that has to do with money, material. That's hard, right?
Yeah.
That's how you try to do your best.
I like that. Never heard that before.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Danny Morrell, real estate broker, talked about it one time. Second thing was 10 things, your money statement. The I am, 2 words they say are the most powerful words of mankind. Anything you put after I am will manifest. So I am earning. The trick is you have to say something that you have not earned yet. So for example, to your listeners and watchers, if you earned, let's just say 2022 income was $70,000, you should say, I am happy and grateful for earning $210,000, 3 times the amount you earned last year.
Love that.
You should do that 10 to 15 times. What that does, in our brain and our mind, we have a thing called RAS, Reticular Activating System. We all know that. You have to tell that and train that daily, time after time after time, and to stretch it. Money, it's like a money psychology. I don't know about y'all. You guys are very successful now, but there was a time that you were not. And that all stems from limiting beliefs. I still deal with that all the time.
Amen.
But these money statements help me to say, okay, you know what? I can do that. I can earn that. I can become that. I can speak. I can be on a podcast with amazing entrepreneurs. And, I can manifest a friendship, And if you do that enough, so that's one thing I do also.
Yeah.
And I have a vision board I look at.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. A lot of manifestation.
Yes.
A lot of envisioning what is to be.
And prayers. And prayers is super important. So.
Yeah. And I think prayers are rooted, I know for us, like when we pray with our daughter every night, it's so interesting to see a little kid.
That's beautiful.
Reflect on what they're grateful for the day.
That's beautiful.
And the silly but the simple things that come out of her mouth make me reflect and gain perspective.
Cool.
And sometimes I'm in a rush to get her down to sleep, and then it's like, boom, we're talking about what she's grateful for, and it's,
that's amazing.
It's the simplest things, and you're like, gosh, I'm in a rush to get down to my phone to respond to this text to try to solve this problem that I'm all frustrated
Put on a
about.
fire.
And then boom, you gain the perspective. So something you just said about the gap we talked about last night on a call, the gap of wanting. You know, you mentioned just from an earning potential, 70,000 to 210,000, there's a gap there. And you're constantly, you mentioned as an achiever, you're constantly in the future of saying, okay, where do I want to go? What do I want to envision? And then allowing yourself to kind of grow into that. But sometimes that's very uncomfortable. But I couldn't help but think in that gap of where you were at your lowest low, that's a big gap, right? But at the same time, it's like, okay, that gap of I just want to walk. Okay. And then you walk. And then there's a gap of, okay, now I just want to get back to work. And you get back to work. And it's this constant pursuit of closing that gap. And man, that has to be such a journey. And I'm in goosebumps half of this podcast because I'm just so grateful that you didn't give up.
Oh yeah.
I'm reminded too that your toughness, your relentlessness, but also, you know, your wife and your in-laws and your family.
My family.
That
my
no
uncles.
one can do it alone, right?
No
and
way.
It doesn't matter how tough you are.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, I had my wife throw me a 40th birthday party last year, a big gala in Miami, and she gave me the mic and the answer to say a few words, and told my guests and my family members the theme was the thank you to you guys. I had a friend who was my second client who called me, hey, my dad wants to buy a house, a multi-millionaire guy. And I'm like, and she was right there in my party. I go, listen, I thank you for trusting me. I can barely walk and talk. You referred me to your dad, the second big deal I had. You know, another friend hired me like month after that. Like if these friends and family members, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, and these friends of mine and with my in-laws were not there, I would not be the person standing in front of you. And my wife is my pillar, man. She's my rock. I mean,
Look forward to meeting her someday.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome, man. Well, if we could sign off here today after your entire journey and kind of where you've been and now where you are today, and what an unbelievable story. You know, somebody listen to this right now. You know, they may not be in the trench, but maybe they're on the down trench. Maybe they're on their way down into the valley, or maybe someone feels like maybe they're coming out of that trench, but they find themselves kind of feeling that lull in their life. You know, what would be some encouraging words that you would leave them with, knowing what you know from your experience and where you are today?
I would say that there's light under the tunnel. Like, trust yourself, trust me, trust anything you can. You know, like keep the faith because it could be a lot worse. And if you want to get perspective, go on Google and type in Somalia or India, slums of India. So I was born in New York, America. So I've been to Pakistan once. And let me tell you something, guys. We live in America. America, God bless America, is the best country, nation, whatever you want to call it, hands down. In this country, you can do anything you believe in.
Amen.
In Pakistan, unless you're a son of a big entrepreneur, you know, and you got lucky being son of a corrupt politician who's, you know, going to buy you whatever, but most likely, you'll be in a slum somewhere. So look at other situations. It helps you a lot. That kid I told you about, 20-year-old kid in that motorcycle accident, I saw him, and it was like, yo, dude.
Damn. That's so powerful.
You know,
because sometimes you think, well, just think about it. It could be better. It can be better. It's going to be better. But sometimes it's hard to envision ourselves being better. So that simple shift of saying, hey, look, what else? It could be worse.
Right.
Says, I'm okay with the present. I'm comfortable with where today. That doesn't mean I'm not going to pursue for better, but it allows me to be at peace. And I think sometimes in those rocky moments, it's like you just lack certainty. You lack peace. You lack this sense of
you're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay. And what a powerful shift that does for your psyche.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Jim Rohn quote. If listeners and you know who Jim Rohn is, but
of course,
my favorite quote of all time just reminds me of what he just says. I think it's be happy with what you have while you pursue everything that you want. Yes. And you know, it's funny. You know, you mentioned it being a habit, gaining perspective, right? It's not enough to have an event, or because we forget, you know, as humans, the way we're wired. And it's really funny. The other day I went running, and I always run the same route in my neighborhood, and I live very close to a hospital in downtown Orlando. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to run over there. And you run by the hospital through this kind of little hospital village and Advent Health, and you see these people that are going into the hospital, out of the hospital. And you can just see the heaviness. You can see the you know that if they're there, that something's wrong, usually, right,
100%.
with that type of hospital. And I was running through there, and I was like, you know what, that's going to be my new route, because I'm going to be able to run through there and gain just a little bit perspective on my way home. That, when I come in the door, I'm grateful for the home I live in, the healthy family I have, and the things that I get to do. And so I would encourage, in what I'm learning from you, is make that a habit. Don't just do that once a year. Don't just do that twice a year when something bad happens, but find ways you can gain perspective to do exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Man,
Absolutely.
That's powerful. Well, KB, how can we find you? How can listeners find you online? I know you've got an awesome podcast.
Thank you.
Stroke of Success.
Thank you so much.
We'll be blasting that out, and want to get your story more well known to the community as it already is. But how can people find you?
My wife makes fun of me. She says, you're too active on social media. Listen, social media is a tool. I love it. I follow you. I get inspired by your morning workouts. I'm telling you the other day, I was gonna text you like, dude, that's awesome.
Thanks, man.
I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram. I have two handles. One is KB Rockstar Realtor. Second one is Stroke of Success. By the way, before I go, Stroke of Success is a podcast I came up with 5 months ago. My brother-in-law gave me the name. Shout out to Billy.
Such a good
I
name.
love you, Billy. I interview entrepreneurs who had stories. They have a story, and they made it made it in life at a certain point. And I am gonna have you guys on there, and we have to, because I'm gonna tell you before we get going, you both are you're a testament of what men should be. Let me tell you why. You both talked about your kids and your family. We need more fathers. Patrick Bet-David did a video the other day. He said one of the biggest problem in America is that we have fatherless homes. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get political and this and that, but what's happening nowadays, and you're seeing it. A lot of these homes don't have fathers. And
Oh, you experienced it, right?
I had no father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm a firsthand testament to that. But the fact that you guys are proud fathers, you're entrepreneurs, husbands, it just, we need people like you guys out there. So thank you. I salute you, and I'm going to want to have you on my podcast. I want to get in your stories, in your head, and share with my audience, because we need people like you guys.
Be honored, man. Be honored. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to that day.
Thank you so much, guys.
Super humbled by that.
Seriously,
Thanks, man.
seriously.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you didn't listen to that one, you're missing out. So thank you so much for being here, KB.
Thank you, guys.
Always
Thank
a pleasure.
You.
So
Appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah. And for all those that are listening, please subscribe to the podcast. Remember, life is meant to be extraordinary.